Hello and welcome back to Span TV, and today I want to talk about QTS 4.3.4. It's part of my ongoing series of videos covering the operating system of different NAS devices. Now, straight away it's worth mentioning a few things. One, there are of course a multitude of mobile applications on offer with Qnap, as well as with Synology and other brands. On top of that, it is worth bearing in mind that I am using a Windows system and I'm using Google Chrome as my browser. So you will see ever so slight differences in terms of performance and output depending on your platform and the device you're using to access QTS. But there are desktop applications available in the utility section of Qnap. So I'm going to try and keep things a little bit shorter than I did on my Synology video. Not much, but just because it did go on a bit, didn't it? So, first and foremost, this is our desktop of QTS 4.3.4. Before we do anything else, let's double check and just show you that this is which device this is. Because at the top here, as you can see, this is the TS932X. It's that 9-bay that I've had on the table for a few of the videos you saw in the background. And this is a 5 hard drive, 4 SSD based NAS. It's got an Annapurna Alpine chip, as you can see on the screen, and 8 gig of DDR4 memory. Now, the device itself is a file server NAS, so this isn't going to be a NAS that we're looking at that's more graphically enabled. But that said, almost all of the bulk and more important applications from Qnap are going to be on this device. The only ones we're not going to be talking about are Virtualization Station and Plex. These two applications are widely available on lots of other Qnap NAS. They just don't happen to be on this device. So do bear that in mind when you make your purchase. But, so straight away, just to confirm, there's our firmware update. And as you can see, while it up, go to 4.3.4, and this is revision 0569. It is the latest update currently available as of the date you can see on the screen, and it is the very latest firmware. So without going into too much detail here, this is where the settings are, where you can set up different user accounts. You can really configure the whole device down, and we'll go into snapshots in just a wee bit. We won't go into that, it's a bit in depth at the moment. But this gives us lots of information about, wake on LAN and power and stuff like that. As well as in the hardware section, this gives us more information about what to do in certain instances of our hardware. Now, for those that haven't already noticed, this is already just a pinch more techy than a Synology. Now, if you're of an IT frame of mind, this is probably quite exciting, because a lot of the stuff you can configure here can really make a bespoke network attached storage solution for you, something that a Synology can't give you. But at the same time, there is just a little bit more of a learning curve. So again, all the options you'd expect, notifications, what happens, you can have some of them via SMS or email. You can have a push service that if something good or indeed bad happens with your NAS, you find out about it in the way that you want. Backup and restore, of course, is when you want to go back to previous revisions, or place the device back into factory settings. External device takes advantage of the USB ports on this device, as well as UPS, and later on I'll tell you something about USB ports that's quite neat on most Qnap devices. System status gives us real-time information about the device, its hardware, its software, and more in a network environment. On top of that, we've got things like the Resource Center, something that's far more analytical than that found on the Synology. Once again, as you would expect, giving lots of information about the storage, the network, the internal hardware, and more. So I will stop clicking on the same button twice. Sorry, I got a little bit ahead of myself there. And then, of course, we've got privileges. Privileges are where we set up our users, our individual users, our groups, our managers, our employees, clients, and admin. Everyone can be set up in groups or individually, and they can give a quota of storage. So every single user who you assign a login for this NAS will have their own desktop environment and their own files and storage, and the files that they can access or share with other users is completely at your control as an admin, and you can assign other admins too, depending on how you see it. File and network services, unsurprisingly, are related to internal and external file networks. Now, again, I'm going to try to keep things as as chewable as possible in this video to cover all the bases. But it's worth mentioning, Network and Virtual Switch is a lovely little application. It basically converts your NAS into a workable switch. And if you are dealing, such as in the case of this device, with 10 gigabit Ethernet connections, it gives you the ability to create a 10G network switch, or in the case of a Thunderbolt NAS, a Thunderbolt to 10G switch as well. And in the case of virtual machines and stuff created in Container Station, this is very attractive indeed. So there we go, we've got our 4 ports, and at the moment we are connected via 10 gigabit Ethernet, and that's over SFP, so in other words fibre. but additional 1 GB is there. But this way you can have all of these devices on one shared switch, and a network switch and a virtual switch is what you can enable with this device. Applications, of course, I've already installed a handful of applications on this device to show you during the course of this video, and filled it with a bunch of files from my editing machine. So they're the files that we're going to be dealing with today. There's nothing too intrusive there, I hope. But this gives us an idea of different applications and what they're entitled to do. So different apps are obviously going to have different priorities and different directories and basically different permissions that they should be allowed to do certain things. And this is where we can control everything. A case in point, the media library here, this gives us the ability to assign different priorities to different media applications. So we'll stop going through the control panel because it's fairly bog standard. On the screen here we've got our desktop, and this has all of our applications. On the bottom left we've got our QBoost, which is the equivalent of basically it flushes the memory. So if we click on it there, we can optimize our memory. Look at the little robot go, and what this will do is this will let the device free up wasted memory. And at the moment, because I've installed a lot of applications, there's probably quite a lot of memory and a little bit of storage that has really gone to waste. So if we remove that, get rid of you, wallop, gone. We can talk about the rest of the desktop. We've got a recycle bin here, of course. We've got time on the bottom right. The picture on the back we can change to whatever we want. And at the top right, we have information such as search, where you can search the entire device for any folder. Let's try a simple document. And this will search the device for a doc. Doesn't help, I've already got this opened up in another tab, so we'll probably give that a miss for now. But this is more likely for apps in this context. We'll go back to the file station one later on, but if we look up QVR, we have QVR Pro. If we look up photo, so there's our photo management, so my mistake. Next, volume control. Now, this is where you can control volume alerts and media alerts, because this NAS, much like most of the modern Qnap NAS, arrives with a speaker on the rear. So we will come back to this later on, but this of course lets us do our alerts. And within these sound and alerts, you can have everything alerting as much as the unit being powered up, powered down, and more. So we do a test.
Audio test.
And there you go, that's the speaker on the rear of the NAS device itself. You didn't hear that on the video. Carrying on, besides the volume control, we've got background tasks. This is an app that I just removed. On top of that, if you connect an external device like a USB, this is where it will appear. And of course, we've got our logs and information about the device. If we go to warning, we'll find that the UPS power loss here. This is from another video that we did a little while ago, and by a little while, I do mean hours. And this is where we did the UPS test on this device. So do check out that video if it has been released. Otherwise, stay tuned for it. On the top right here is where we can find more information about restarting, rebooting, and more on our NAS. And you can change different priorities for different users with the two-step verification, the wallpaper, email account, assigning it. So this is our kind of quick access tool. And once again, with that speaker, locate our NAS. And that's if you've got multiple NASs in your network environment. This lets you let you know which one you're logging into. I know that sounds really stupid, but take my word for it. For a man that's never got more than never less than 2 or 3 NASs on the go, that is a useful little feature. Now, up here we've got our dashboard of information, and once again, far more analytical than that we find inside in a Synology NAS. Far more details, and once again, for those that want real control, this is going to be hugely impressive. But for those that want to set up and forget NAS, this is going to be very intimidating. So you can't really give an advantage one way or another to this device based on what we're seeing here, because this is going to be purely based on a preference. So let's face it, what you wanted to see was the apps. That's why you came here. You want to know how versatile this device is. So I'm not going to go through all of these apps, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the most commonly used ones. Now, Cloud Backup Sync. This gives us the ability to synchronize our NAS with a cloud platform or vice versa. So in the case of this hybrid backup sync, what we're going to do is just to quickly show you, I'm going to synchronize this NAS with a cloud-based system. So if we do a one-way sync, we'll sync our cloud to the NAS, shall we? So if we do a two-way sync and we'll sync with the cloud, this will create a folder on NAS that synchronizes with a cloud platform. So if we go for Google Drive, and we'll use our NAS Compare email that we set up for that video millions of years ago. And now we're going to synchronize with that cloud. we select the destination folder. Let's go for one of the ones, this is the source folder here. So if we synchronize with, go to multimedia, we'll synchronize that folder there. And once again, we can rotate these, but for now we'll synchronize with the cloud platform there. Here's some of those folders we created a million years ago. We'll synchronize with Q files. Add them. And that's it. Now we've created our synchronization with a cloud platform. And again, this can be time managed, it can be done locally or remote, and this can be done in a multitude of different ways. So it's a lovely system there to have that backing up happening in the background off-site. So once again, if we go to the alerts, we can see that the two-way sync is in progress. Hopefully that won't be too derogatory to our network performance for the rest of this video. So moving on to another popular application, we can talk about Download Station. Download Station, for good or for bad, is a great app. All NASes should have download stations, not just Qnap, but all of them. But it's how people use them that will dictate how popular and how long they'll be around. Because let's face it, most people use Download Station to download files that they either don't own or are borrowing from other people. And it's peer-to-peer networking that can prove unpopular. And unfortunately, it's a small group of bad apples that utilize this device for torrents. Hence that alert when you set the device up. But if you want to use FTP, HTTP, NZB or BT based downloads, you literally just have to add the URL, chuck in the URL there, click next, and then it will add it and download it to the destination folder that you set up in the settings menu. Or alternatively, if you've got an individual torrent file, a peer-to-peer sharing file or more, you can add it directly and drag and drop it into this interface. For those of you like myself that enjoy podcasts, I do recommend the RSS feeds, because from here you can submit to an RSS feed and have regular podcasts or any kind of RSS feed really for information, audio or video, arriving to your NAS regularly in the background without you having to chase it, which is great for people that have a regular podcast such as The Bugle, can't get enough of that, or Absolute Radio's own podcast. Excellent stuff. Anyway, moving forward, the File Station application, no-brainer, is a real easy app. It's basically our file manager of the entire NAS, but with the added benefit of snapshots and background checks. We'll go to that later on. Now, I should also mention, while we're on the File Station app, when you're setting up your Qnap for the first time, you have to install a program called QFinder Pro. Now, here is the NAS from QFinder Pro, the one that we're on, the one in the middle there, the 932. But if you right-click that, you can map a network drive. So say for example this folder structure that we've got here, we'll try that out, we'll set that up, we'll map a network drive, we'll go for multimedia, we'll map the network drive. And this was in Windows. It's really straightforward to add a network drive. And that's it. We've just added our network drive, we've assigned it the letter V, and the result is that now we don't even have to use the software. If we want, we can just use the Windows software, or indeed the Mac if you're using it, software to just access your folder structure without even the QTS interface. So again, this video is about the QTS 4.3.4, but if you want to use this in a file server capacity, much like I've got here, and again, remember this is connected via 10 GBE, so the speeds will be higher, but it's nice to be able to access folders and files on a local level in a more identifiable fashion. So if we close the file server, and again we will be doing individual videos on all of these applications, we can talk about some of these other apps. We'll stream over them, we won't open them, we'll save them for another video. Stuff like the help desk is where we get real-time information about FAQs and community guidelines, and community guides I should say, of things to do on the NAS. Hybrid Backup Sync lets us synchronize Linux, Windows and NAS based servers together in one place. IFTTT, if this then that. Anyone that's familiar with if this then that will know that it's an Internet of Things and smart application that links hardware and software, and indeed hardware, software together, and create certain recipes for certain actions. One of the most common ones, of course, is the idea that if you take a picture on your phone, you can either send it to a certain platform or back it up to another. If you click like on a video on YouTube, some IFTTT recipes will let you, if you click like on a video on YouTube, IFTTT will then, via your Google account, download the video onto your NAS. There's lots of things IFTTT can do, but of course you have to install the app to do it. JS Tetris, I won't lie, is exactly what it says on the tin. It is a game of Tetris. It sounds ridiculous, but it is the ability to put Tetris on your Qnap NAS. Very basic, but I quite like it during in between videos when I'm waiting for stuff. License Center is if you want to buy exFAT or camera licenses or VM licenses for your NAS. Malware Remover is what it says on the tin. Media Streaming Add-on, as you can see there is an extra that you can install on your Qnap NAS to help with DLNA and multimedia playback on different devices on your network. The two that you can't see because it's out of the recording window are Music Station, which we will look at in more depth in a bit, Photo Station, which we'll look at in a bit. Qcontacts is the ability to synchronize all of your contacts into one central location, email, phone and the rest, and therefore with the help of Qmail agent create a single access point for all of your contacts, all of your different mail servers, be they POP server or third party such as Google, Apple, that sort of thing, and have them all in one place and dealt with. So you've got all your email server and all of your data, because remember, that free email, your Yahoo, your Gmail, your Hotmail, whatever, you're still using an online space. And all of that data, all of the attachments, everything you're doing is still on the cloud. So not only are you now using space out there, but that still makes it accessible from other people. Qmail and Qcontacts and Qfiling give you the ability to centralize your storage, but more importantly, keep everything off the public cloud and on your private cloud, your NAS. Qnap Diagnostic Tools is something that we don't really find on any other NAS platform, and it genuinely is a means to test your NAS in a number of ways. Cannot stress this enough, how useful this tool is, and I do look forward to utilizing this tool with SSD caching very soon when we're testing out the new series of QM2 cards as they get released. Let's remove the App Center. Down here, Qsearch is the smart search tool that will search the entire NAS, and that was the one we're looking for earlier. And Qsearch will literally search the internal, it will search everywhere. It will search in files, it will search directories, it will search the lot. So let's try that search I tried earlier on. And here we have a script from a video I did a little while ago there. And again, it searches just in that one directory for me, but it will do more. Further than that, we've got QVPN, which is a smart way to utilize VPN technology on your NAS and make the most from your VPN, your private, your privacy effectively online. SSL certificate for those that need that sense of security and safety online and accessing the NAS via encryption. QVR Pro, we've got a whole video dedicated to that, but that is the new and improved surveillance platform for Qnap NAS. Text editor, as it says on the tin, is a text editor. Video station that we'll look at in a moment is playback for visual media and sorting, and lots of tools there. And quite interesting, virtual here USB sharing gives you the ability to connect a USB device, any really, to your Qnap NAS and therefore make it network accessible and indeed internet accessible. So if you've got a USB device that you need someone to utilize, you can let them use it via the network or internet thanks to virtually here USB sharing. It's a lovely tool and I've used it a few times now for microphones. But let's make our way to the core apps. Now, installing these apps, all the apps you've seen so far are free. To install the apps, you go into the App Center, much like your Google Play or your iTunes, and what this does is give you the ability to look at all the apps that are currently available. You can go with all the apps, QTS Essentials and Recommended. Now the apps that you see will depend on the NAS you buy. Pretty much all the apps that you're going to see on here today are available on all Qnap NAS, but the ones that aren't, as I mentioned at the top of the video, there's a few of them. They're a little bit more graphic rendery than the CPU in this NAS can do. But once again, this is a 9-bay NAS for 500 quid, so what are you complaining about? And it's 10G enabled. But again, lots of features and functionality here, and it's all broken down into different subcategories. Lots of stuff that we can do with our NAS. So if we come out of that, once you've installed some of these apps, because installing them, I should show you, is painfully easy. Let's go for an app here that we haven't installed yet, just to show you how easy installation of these apps are. So if we go for recommended apps, and we will install Connect to QCenter, we can either click on the main banner and find out more about it, and then click install, Alternatively, we can literally just click install and that's it. It will start installing. So we come out of that, let's look at the core apps, the first party apps that everyone's going to use at one point. They are Photo Station, Video Station and Music Station, which should be on the other page. There we are. Just before we do that, do bear in mind, of course, my Qnap Cloud, if you are going to set up a NAS for the first time, make sure when you set up your Qnap NAS for the first time to go into here and basically connect your cloud account, the blue sticker that arrives on all Qnap NAS, and therefore use that to back up your NAS to accordingly and access your NAS, I should say, over the network and internet. So this is basically your DDNS alternative. This gives you the ability, there's DDNS, to access your NAS as fully over the internet as you would via the network. So again, do set that up for the first time and you can create multiple DDNS connections. Now, onto the core apps. First, we'll take a look at Photo Station. Now, in Photo Station, I've already filled this, as I've said, with a lot of the footage and lots of recordings and stuff from my back catalogue of stuff I've done online. Also, on top of that, I put some of my own personal photos in there, just basically chucking a lot of information in for those that aren't aware. These are the guys from Qnap. Look at them, lovely people there. And in the Photo Station application, what we can do is we can manage galleries, we can create playlists, and it also does cover videos as well. So if we start looking at the gallery here, this gives us real, kind of a more lovely, pretty feel of things. But to be honest, a lot of us quite like a far more analytical approach. And from here is where we can learn more about the device itself. So if we skip all of the tutorial stuff, and from here we've got our individual folders that we can upload. You can just drag and drop a file into here if you wish. Let's drag and drop something, shall we? If we drag and drop a picture of some sort. And that's it. Now that's going to go straight onto it. It really is that straightforward to add files and folders as we see fit. Now also in here we can filter the content for searching. We can create new folders and playlists and more. And there's lots of other bits and bobs that this device is able to do with our files. And again, it's got everything you would expect from a comprehensive photo tool. Now, also when we go through the back of this, we can look at some of the applications here at the top right. Because from here, we can go to the settings, which give us where to scan for our files and folders. So if you want to create independent volumes and hide folders as well, this is something that's totally open to you with this device. You can rate the pictures, create those custom playlists, and control your sharing in this app as well. And of course, we will talk about this lovely button up here when we get a moment. It is a lot of fun, but you're going to see more versatility in this later on with some of the other apps. But from here, we can choose to share these things in a different way. We can create shared folders or individual files directly from the NAS. We can upload, we can download, we can create our playlists and our slideshows, as you can see on screen. But to be honest, what we want to focus on now is the next app. We want to talk about Music Station. Now, Music Station, unsurprisingly, is where we find our music. If we go to the spotlight area here, at the moment, because all I've got is MP3s and WAVs, recording of scripts, we're not going to see anything too exciting here. But that said, what we can do is start seeing the versatility and utility of that rear speaker. Because if we want, we can change the default output of this device. So streaming media will stream over the internet to DLNA devices and more. PC desktop means that all of our audio will come out of the device that we're connecting with, which is obviously this device I'm on. And finally, this is the speaker that's built into the rear of our Qnap NAS. So any music or audio file we play will play from the Qnap and its own speaker, or the phono socket built into the rear. Now, individual artists, this software will scrape metadata and fill out all of the album playlists and descriptions and more. But once again, because I've only loaded this with MP3s of recordings that I've made for this channel, it's not going to be that exciting. At the bottom, of course, we can see more about playing and shuffles and playlists and all that lark. But to be honest, it is a very, very good music playback device, and you will see more versatility offered by mobile devices by using the QMusic application. The same with QPhoto and QVideo. Next, we can move on to video. Now, the Video Station application is where things are actually quite interesting indeed. Because the Video Station application, unfortunately, because this device doesn't support transcoding, I won't be able to show you that in this video. But that said, given that we're recording from screen, we might not have seen the performance in that. Look at Eddie, the web guy, and me there. Now, what we can do here is we can play back files via a multitude of means. Now, straight away, we've got music, movies, we've got all these different directories. Now, I haven't set these directories up, but if you want, you can scan and create different directories so that all the movies, if you've got all of your movies in one folder on the NAS, you can get it so that the movies button will scan that path on the NAS. Whereas you can do the same for TV shows and all your different kinds of file. But for me, I'm going straight for uncategorized because these photos and files and videos are uncategorized. Searching subtitles will search the internet for files. If you've got a login for, say, opensubtitles.com, and there's different privileges, and talking about third-party players, this device is a huge supporter of VLC media player. So if that is your media player of choice locally on your PC, this is something very much for you. It's also worth mentioning, once you've installed the streaming multimedia streaming playback application that we mentioned right at the top of the video, your localized DLNA devices will live here. So if you have far more DLNA dependent hardware, such as Sonos or Bose sound systems, they will appear on this list so you can play back directly to these devices. But say we choose one of these videos here, something that's a little bit talky, we'll play back this and we will choose to play it via the speaker. NAS to focus on having the file as that engine. Therefore, so this is me talking over myself, utilizing that speaker on the rear of the NAS. And when that happens, it means you can do bigger transcode, much bigger files or more. So it is worth mentioning as a single speaker, so obviously stereo isn't an option, but if you're looking for somewhere where you want to create a standalone PC, or perhaps you just want to listen to some nice classical music pumping out the rear of your NAS while you work, that's a neat little feature and it can be utilized in a number of ways. But the Video Station application is still a very solid app. It does everything you need it to do, and it does scan, and it will save all the thumbnails to save you time later on, something that was a real problem with NASes back in the early days. Now, before we go, I do want to mention some other apps, just quickly. One, Container Station, and this is where we create LXC or Docker applications, and the likes of Linux-based applications too. It lets us create our own kind of light virtual machines, but these machines are not really whole machines insofar as they are independent single applications. You create a container to execute an app via a Linux kernel. So again, nice little neat touch there, and again with the addition of 10 GBE means you can create really bespoke CRM and TMS systems for your home or business. Now, I mentioned earlier on, really early, I mentioned about the storage. Now, storage and snapshot, this is where in the real back end things get a little technical, but for me personally, it's one of the reasons that Qnap still continues to be a real player in the NAS market, and why them and Synology still hold the top spot. Because of the bespoke way in which your storage can be handled. As you can see, I've created 2 storage pools. For those that watched my 10 GB editing videos, and I hope they're live as well, you'll know that I created one storage pool of 1 hard drive and another storage pool with multiple hard drives, with the multiple hard drives and a RAID 0 to show increased speeds. These NASes let you create, as long as you're only limited by the number of hard drives, you can create 3 or 4 different RAIDs if you so choose. Or you can do SSD caching with NASes such as the one that we're looking at today, the 932X, that have SSD bays built into the bottom, and then you can pool that SSD storage for fast access files or to act as cache to the larger scale storage. And again, these are things that are very easy to set up. And again, with things like virtual JBOD, iSCSI and more, and LUN targets, there's a whole manner of ways in which your data, both on this NAS and outside this NAS, can communicate, migrate and collaborate. Of course, it would be foolish of us not to mention snapshot backup, and in snapshot backup, this is where we can create an area of storage So you can see no protection because obviously the other storage volume is a single hard drive, so no RAID protection. But our storage pool means that we can create multiple snapshot backups of our data at different points in time to revert to. Snapshots can be done semi-autonomously, or they can be done on a whim when you so choose. The result being that you are able to create an entire lineage, a history of your files as they change that you can go back to when you need to in the event of error. So remember, malware protection, antivirus protection, backups and more. You can have dedicated background snapshots that happen without you even knowing, meaning that you can basically sleep easy that versions of your files are always kept. And these can be done smart, so only a certain number before they start writing over themselves, or they can just be logical and will continue until the end of time or your storage runs out. But that's really the Qnap Qts platform. There's still a host of other apps that I didn't even touch on today. I'm already at nearly 30 minutes here, and it'd be madness to make this go on longer. But I will be doing follow-up videos on individual applications in a lot more depth very, very soon indeed. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in buying a Qnap NAS, of course you want to go to the guys at span.com. Over 20 years experience in the biz, they know what they are doing with worldwide shipping. Come on, no brainer. If you want to learn more, so the more wordy version of this overview, then do visit me at nascompares.com. And finally, if you've got a question about Qnap NAS, something I didn't touch on, or because remember there are a lot of apps I didn't touch on today, then do send me a message via Twitter at RobbieOnTheTube. Thanks for watching.